Ink Ribbon.
Another year, another Tomb Raider game to dig up and analyze. The fourth entry in the series attempted to breathe new life into the franchise with updated graphics and presentation while also trying some new things. And with that, let's just get into the video. From rope glitches to gold editions, this is my video on the secrets and Easter eggs of Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation.
Number 10.
Real locations. Unlike previous entries which had locations like Atlantis or floating islands, Last Revelation takes place entirely in Egypt and revolves around real locations. The first level takes place in Angkor Wat, Cambodia, which was also featured in the Tomb Raider film. While some of the places like Tomb of Set were fictional, almost all of the tombs are based off of real places, including KV-5, the Pyramids of Giza, and even Cleopatra's Palace. Though it is worth noting a lot of these locations obviously aren't exact replicas. I mean, Cleopatra's Palace is mostly underwater in real life, but it's still cool to know these places, tombs, and even Egyptian gods are all real and you can go see them in real life.
Number 9.
Version differences. Last Revelation was the first game released on more than PC and PlayStation, so I thought I'd look at the differences between each version. In my research, I found that there were actually 4 different versions of the base game released. The first version was missing some content and interestingly is the version available for download on the PlayStation Store. The second version was exclusive to the PS1 and the only changes are in the KV-5 level where the end is changed to force Lara to require the Jeep to finish the level and prevent soft locking. The third version of the game was the last version for the PS1 and serves as the main game for the PC version. A few quality of life changes were added to this, like a game over message allowing the player to load a game instead of being ejected to the title screen. Von Croy's tutorials can no longer be skipped using the look button. A door was also added right after the swimming tutorial in order to prevent players from sequence breaking. The Tomb of Set also had various changes, mostly adding extra ammo pickups and replacing the shotgun with Uzis in the third secret of the level. The fourth revision, exclusive to the PC, added rocks to the diving section of KV-5 to slow down players who were speeding through the level too fast. And lastly, we have the Dreamcast version, which features a dynamic shadow which is affected by lighting, as well as bump maps to various textures throughout the game, and a sort of fog on some levels. This version also features a gallery with 32 images of concept art and renders, and features a remix of the main theme by DJ Paul Oakenfold.
Number 8.
Firsts and changes. Last Revelation was a step up from previous games, now benefiting from the strides made in technology and development during the 5th gaming generation. And with this came a lot of new things for the series. Aside from the obvious graphical improvements like characters' mouths and facial expressions now animating in cutscenes, there were also new gameplay features including climbing and swinging from ropes. There were also a lot of firsts for the series, like the first time we get to see Lara young and the first time we meet Von Croy. Excluding the training levels in Cambodia, this is the first Tomb Raider game where Lara doesn't travel the world, instead staying in one relative location, being of course Egypt. This is also the longest game in the franchise, being 38 levels long. This is the first Tomb Raider game released on the Dreamcast, and this is the first Tomb Raider game to not feature a T-Rex.
Number 7.
Jean-Yves controversy.
Là?
Jean-Yves, my faithful friend.
In case you didn't know this, the Tomb Raider game infamously got into a bizarre controversy due to the character introduced, who's named Jean-Yves. He was Lara's friend and fellow archaeologist. The reason for the controversy is because there actually was an archaeologist named Jean-Yves Emperor, and he was not happy about having his likeness used without his consent. Now, most Tomb Raider fans already know about this, but it gets a bit stranger. Immediately issuing a public apology and removing the character from future games, Core claimed that it was totally a coincidence. While watching the Last Revelation livestream with the original developers on Tomb of Ash, they confirmed that not only was Jean-Yves a coincidence, but the fact that his office in the game looked nearly identical to his real-life office was too. Back then, they weren't able to just Google reference, so it's likely that a generic archaeologist office was in a magazine or a book, possibly being photos of his actual office. And the saddest part is the real Jean-Yves said he would have been happy to provide his likeness if he had been asked. But what's done is done.
Number 6.
Cheats and glitches. As with previous entries, this game has cheat codes, this time using a system requiring Lara to face exactly north. The easiest way to do this is to climb onto something facing north, or something facing south, and then just roll. If you want to be sure you're facing true north, you'll know because the compass needle will become transparent. Among the cheat codes available are level skip, all key items, and infinite health and ammo. There are also a few glitches in this game, like young Lara dying mid-cutscene if you do this. There's also a bug that can happen where Lara's arm gets stuck in the position of holding something, preventing her from climbing or shooting. There's an area after the Great Pyramids level where you're able to get out of bounds and see some interesting unfinished areas that you aren't supposed to be able to reach. The rope climbing can sometimes have broken physics and violently launch Lara. And my personal favorite glitch is at the end of the Desert Railroad level. If you jump towards the cutscene trigger, Lara will die, but the game continues normally into the next level.
Number 5.
Easter eggs. I couldn't make a list like this without including some actual Easter eggs, and you can find the first one very close to the beginning of the tutorial level. Around some spikes are a skeleton that, if you look closely, is holding a whip, and nearby is a fedora, which of course is an obvious nod to Indiana Jones. Speaking of which, there's actually a lot of references to the Indiana Jones franchise, like the fact that Von Croy is actually inspired by Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark. More references to films come in the form of movie posters at the beginning of the Alexandria level, which are real Egyptian film posters. The last film reference I could find comes in the form of this garage in Cairo, complete with a dying man, all of which being a subtle nod to the movie Reservoir Dogs. And for any car enthusiasts out there, Von Croy's car is based on a 1955 Buick Roadmaster. And lastly, worth mentioning, is what I can only call a reverse Easter egg, where the iris that appears in Tomb Raider 3 in her trophy room is now shown in its original context, being the artifact that Lara and Von Croy are going after.
Number 4.
Secrets. Aside from the literal secrets Lara can find, there are also a couple of other things that are really easy to miss or not know about, starting with the golden skulls during the opening tutorial level. If you find all 8 skulls, the last challenge will be different, having Von Croy open the opposite door leading to a nearly identical room, but with no pool of water under the rope. Continuing from here, the gauntlet level that Lara and Von Croy race through will be completely different and a lot more difficult. Did you know that bad guys can steal items from Lara? I've only seen this happen on the train level, but the henchmen will actually take the small medipacks if Lara doesn't get them first. Skeletons are seemingly impossible to kill, but if you aim with the laser sight and land a headshot, they become defenseless and will just run around aimlessly, leaving Lara alone. There are multiple different cutscenes with Jean-Yves if Lara keeps returning to him, changing depending on her progress in the game. And lastly, for some reason, when leaving the Lost Library, it's really easy to miss, but you can pick up Von Croy's broken glasses. They serve no purpose, and they will disappear from your inventory later in the game.
Number 3.
Gold Edition. Just like the previous 3 games, there was a gold expansion that was planned but later cancelled. Now what you're seeing on the screen is a fan level made in the Tomb Raider level editor called Fading Light by the user Cowboy, which was a recreation based on the cancelled levels. So this isn't official, but it's the closest thing we'll ever have, so just use your imagination. This expansion was going to revolve around Lara finding the Fountain of Youth, consisting of 5 levels. The first is Mardi Gras, taking place on the streets of New Orleans, complete with a voodoo jazz club, zombies, and wolves. It continues into the city with her traveling around on a motorcycle, and even incorporates some American history. It's a shame that it wasn't made because it has a lot of interesting ideas and concepts. If you'd like to read the full synopsis by designer Phil Campbell, who is going to work on it, I'll put the link in the description.
Number 2.
Cut content. There's nothing too crazy in terms of cut content, but there's still enough worth mentioning. First are 2 unused weapons, an alternate model for the crossbow, and a shotgun equipped with the laser sight. Then we have some unused items including classic flares. And thanks to the Twitter user Dermon, I also found these unused mummy enemies that apparently have claws. There's also an unused door, what appears to have been 2 key items to combine into a bomb, and some sort of amulet which is mislabeled as shaft keys. It's also worth mentioning that in some cutscenes, and even on the cover of the game itself, Lara can be seen holding a flashlight, which was meant to be usable in the game but ended up getting cut. They most likely didn't have time to change the renders, so just left them as is. There's also one unused level called the Valley Temple that would have taken place between the Sphinx complex and under the Sphinx levels. In 2021, Tomb of Ash, partnering with Peter Connolly, who worked on the game, released development files from a beta version of the game that had a lot of unused content, mainly sounds. Here are some of Lara's unused screams. And a few miscellaneous voice lines that weren't used.
Eidos Interactive. Eidos Interactive. Anything else? Yeah, right. No one? No one anymore? Okay. All right, darling.
There were even some bloopers left in.
Yeah, no time. Your hand, Lara. Give me your hand. Oh, I'm bad. I'm a bad boy. I'll bet you are. I suppose a quick shag is out of the question.
Number 1.
Development. Probably the most interesting thing about the development of the 4th game was the simple fact that the team set out with one major goal. That goal was to kill Lara Croft and end the series once and for all. For many Tomb Raider fans, this seems bizarre, but the reason for it is simply that the team was completely exhausted and burnt out after releasing a new Tomb Raider game for 4 years in a row. As we know, their attempt was unsuccessful, but it was still a very interesting twist that a lot of gamers didn't see coming. Along with making it her final game, the team also completely revamped the graphics now that PlayStation development had come so far in graphics and improvements. Lara had a whole new model, the inventory system was changed, and slight improvements were made all around. Speaking of which, not many people realize this, but if you look at her model, you'll notice she's missing her leg holster straps. Turns out they were accidentally left out. Along with the new Lara model was a new voice, with Jonelle Elliott being cast specifically to have a younger sounding Lara, especially for the flashback levels. Speaking of which, turns out the reason for the unskippable tutorial cutscenes was due to players being able to run off and skip sections, which essentially broke the game. The cutscenes served as a sort of reset to keep the player where they needed to be. A lot of this info came from a live stream on Tomb of Ash with the original developers providing insight and commentary, which I highly recommend watching if you're a Tomb Raider fan. And that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about the 4th game in the series, and if you did, then please make sure you're facing exactly north before you hit that like button. For more videos just like this, check out my channel, and until next time, I'm Kai Morgan, and as always, thanks for watching Ink Ribbon. And a very special thank you to all of my Patreon supporters and YouTube members. Your extra support means the world to me and helps me keep making content for you guys.